Sometimes I feel life is like a musical, so I'm gonna start my talking song to make me a little less awkward in front of you. The first chapter of my talk is finding your purpose, what you're meant to do. It doesn't always come easily to you. Chapter 2, turning your art from a hobby to a profession. Chapter 3, every single art form is vital for the growth of your art form. Chapter 4, talking about the music scene. Chapter 5, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. And then it will be the end. Okay, so as you can see, I'm a little awkward because some technical difficulties, but anyway, that's life, the show must go on. So as I outlined in my little piece, those are a few things that I'm going to talk about. When I first was called to do this, I freaked out a lot. I watched lots of TED Talks. I had no idea what I was going to say. So after watching a lot of TED Talks, one thing I realized is I don't want to talk too much about myself, but talk to you about something that maybe you could connect with in some way. So the first point in my talk is finding your purpose. What is it that you are meant to do? What is it that makes you ultimately happy doing? And making that your profession. A lot of us do not have an answer to that. At different ages, I myself had no idea I'd be doing this a year ago. And the point is, when you do not know exactly what it is you are supposed to do, you don't have to worry about it because that's completely human, that's completely normal. And if it takes you years, if it takes you going through lots of different professions and trying out lots of things, and your parents think you're crazy, and your bosses think you're crazy, and everyone thinks you're crazy, you're not crazy. And I think, especially in today's society, I mean, maybe way back when our parents were our age, it was that this is your profession, this is what you do, you have to bring home money, you have to sustain yourself. But I think we've moved towards an environment where you are kind of given the space to find what it is, and maybe life isn't only about bringing home the bacon, but also enjoying what you do in the process. So that was the first point. I'm just going to speak very briefly about all of them. So finding your purpose. Once you've found your purpose, and say that your purpose is art. I'm going to talk from an artist's perspective because that is my perspective, but for you it could be absolutely anything under the sun. It needn't be art. It could be anything. It could be anything at all. Anyway, once you've found your purpose, say you found your calling, say it is to be an artist of some sort, how do you turn your art from a hobby to a sustainable profession? And when you go down this path, you have two options, right? You have one option to completely put yourself into it, and that is your means of survival, that is your means of satisfaction, that is your means of expression, everything. And the other option is to start out maybe with a day job, that's what I've been doing, which kind of sustains you while you take your art to where you want it to be. And it's a difficult choice. It's an extremely difficult choice, and it is up to each artist to find which works best for him or her, because there is no right answer. I'm not here to tell you that there are any right answers because I myself don't know. I'm discovering it along the way. So the option of just completely throwing yourself into it, for me, the reason why I find that problematic is when you've completely made the shift, right? And now you are dependent on what you love doing most for your sustenance. It makes you take compromises. It makes you take up things like suddenly you'll be in a position where you'll take up anything just to make, whatever excess amount is required for you to pay rent. And that can be frustrating in its own way. But if you are mature enough and you know that you are ready to do that, then you should go for it. For me, I'll come to a little bit about myself a little later. But I used to be a lawyer, and I quit that, going from a position of earning lots of money to not. So I took up a low-paying day job. Because one thing that no one tells you when you set out on this journey is that people don't pay artists on time, ever. And they don't pay artists adequately either. But even when they do, there are a lot of delays. And it's nice to have some sort of guaranteed money coming in every month. Of course, the drawback is that you have absolutely no time to chill, because you're working during the day, you're going to rehearsals during the evening, you're playing gigs, you're doing all of this in any free time that you find at all. So that is difficult. But for me, I found that this has worked, and I guess slowly will start tapering off the day job aspect of it. But people will tell you, why do you do this? Quit your job, be an artist. Why are you doing this? Don't be afraid to hold on to your day job and be practical about it. Arts are not only about, being creative and being, colorful and all of that stuff. It's okay to be practical too. In fact, it helps you sustain and incubate your art to be a little practical. So that is my second point. Now coming to the third point. So now you have found your purpose, and you have found your own personal way to make art a sustainable profession. So now speaking purely from a musician's perspective, the first thing I did when I took this step was, I was told that I need to put out music. I need to get my stuff out there. And the first thing I found was that there are so many costs involved in this. No one told me about it. To record a song, first of all, it's many hours of work, and then you have to pay for mixing, mastering, artwork, press, your managers, and these are all things that when you listen to a track on Apple Music, you only see the artist's name. But the number of people who have put in work to make this possible, it doesn't always come to mind, and you don't really know it until you've experienced it yourself. And when you experience yourself and you meet the people behind it, you realize that their value add is so immeasurable that your piece of art would be incomplete without them. So just as music is an industry, artwork is an industry, photography is an industry, journalism, mixing, mastering, recording, all of these are people just like me, just like you, who are trying to make their own journey. And I think it's very important that all artists of all art forms recognize the worth of this, and that we can only grow together if we work together. If we can only grow if we grow together, basically. So that is something that no one told me, and it just hit me. But I'm so it's pretty amazing to see all the building blocks that go into that one song that you just listened to on YouTube. So coming to the scene, the music scene, this is something that, so I guess I form part of the indie music scene, the independent music scene. And the scene itself is something that no one likes to talk about. What is the scene? Now that I'm a musician, the scene, there's a group of artists in the same field as you. Some are very established, some have worked very hard for many years to make a name for themselves. Some are new sensations, some have been on the fringes for years. When you enter the scene, when you become a new artist and you're part of the scene, you're faced with a lot of things. There might be a lot of people who have worked very hard for many years and they don't like seeing a new person coming in. There may be people who admire you and who really help you. It's like the music scene is like the legal scene, is like the college scene, is like the high school scene. It's pretty much a society of people with common interests and common ideals, and they're all trying to do the same thing. Maybe not common ideals, that just came out. So how do we exist as artists in the scene? Because sometimes it gets to you. So does that mean we isolate ourselves completely? The point is, you cannot isolate yourself completely, because just as I said, each art form is growing together. So are all individuals within a singular art form. So we all need each other. At the same time, it is important to not let that affect you negatively. And I was going to play a song on this. I think I do have time. So, all serious and difficult topics in life, I don't like talking about them. I like singing them, which is why I sang my introduction, so that I would be less awkward in front of you. So I'm going to sing a song. I don't have an answer exactly about how to deal with the scene. But I do have a song which I wrote called Small Fish in a Big Pond. It's how I felt as a newcomer in the music industry. I can play it for you. I'm a small fish in a big pot, swimming against the current of life, and it isn't always very nice. In my old stream, I used to dream of swimming away, but this water seems too cold. Maybe I'm just getting old. It's cost me the land. I'm a small fish in a big pot, swimming against the current of life, and it isn't always very nice. In my old stream, I used to dream of swimming away, but this water seems to come. I mustn't buckle, must be bold, keep swimming my way. Thank you. So, I did what I thought I couldn't do. I have successfully used most of the time. So I'm kind of proud of myself right now. Anyway, to speak to you very briefly about myself, my name is Aditi Ramesh. I used to be a corporate lawyer for almost 3 years. I never in my life imagined that I'd be doing this. I loved music throughout my life. I did Western classical piano as a kid, Carnatic on and off as a kid, and then I did no music for 11 years. And had this crazy idea. It's just been exactly a year and 10 days today to quit my job, and I didn't think that I'd be doing what I'm doing. I just quit my job thinking that I need to be doing something with music or I'm not going to be happy. And my plan was take up a day job that gives me a little bit of time and just practice with every little bit of extra time that I get. So it served me well. I'm happy to say I'm part of 4 bands today. I've started my own all-girls band, and that's like a lifelong dream of mine. And so basically, to conclude, I would say everything starts and ends with practice. Practice is the most important, and it keeps you grounded. And no matter what your accomplishments are, you should always know that you are just somewhere on a journey which is lifelong, and you can always be better, and you can always practice. And when things get too difficult and you feel like you can't breathe, you need to just wait for the efflux of time. And I'm going to play my song, Efflux of Time, for you now. I barely have enough time to do it, but I'm going to try. Efflux of time is a legal term. It's meant to describe something I find poetic, and legal terms, as we know, are very definite. They are subject to interpretation. So it's a definite word, term to describe something poetic. That's the passage of enough time to cause something to change. Bum, ba-da-da-ba-da-you, bum, ba-ba-da-ba-da-you, 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 bum, ba-ba-da-ba-da-you, bum, ba-da-da-ba-da-you, 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 bum, ba-ba-da-ba-da-you, oh, those are items to take off my list. I wish they didn't exist. Train travel circling around my head. Sometimes I wish that I could stay in bed. Won't you wake me up from this bad dream? Sometimes life is harder than it seems, so it just goes down. You've got to simmer down and say, and wait for the efflux of time. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-you, bum, ba-da-da-ba-da-you, bum, ba-ba-da-ba-da-you, bum, ba-da-da-ba-da-you. It's abridged version because I'm out of time. That was my talk. I really wanted to do this one thing before I end. There's a singer called Annette Hanshaw, who you should check out, a very old singer. And after every single one of her recorded songs, she says this one thing, and that's all. So that's all. Thank you so much.